Good morning and welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be going over the 19 new mounts in Shadowlands. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Now coming in for number 1 we have the ARDENWEALD STAG mount. Now judging by this one, I actually like this design, so to speak. It's I like the engraved like rune-esque things on the actual type of, it looks a little more like a goat than a stag, but that being the case, the runes on its actual skin, it looks absolutely really cool. I generally like this, and to be honest, I think this one is probably one of the top winners at this moment in time. Besides the additional horns, as of it being the stag, it is a beautiful new mount, and to be honest, this is by far probably one of my most favourite ones, hence why I've put it at number 1 on this list. The next one to look at is the upgraded version of the ARDENWEALD STAG mount, and for all honesty, this one looks a hell of a lot cooler, mainly because the antlers are absolutely massive as hell, and they've got kind of like little wisps in between the actual horns, or at the end of the horns, so to speak. So to be honest, on a night elf this will look great. Might actually even mount up as a druid with that, because the coloration on this, it actually goes rather well. And if you can still see, there are the runes that actually go along with this. I actually think that this mount is going to be something along the lines of an exalted reputation, such as obviously with the ARDENWEALD, and I think we will have to actually get like exalted when we're actually trying to get hold of these ARDENWEALD stag mounts, because at the end of the day they look like, they kind of give off the vibe that they are going to be something along the lines of you have to get to exalted in order to buy these mounts. I think that they're not going to be capped between something. I personally think, looking at all the different colorations that you can actually get, or reskins, that we're going to have like, they're going to be kind of like how you would go about getting a hold of like the dark spear raptors, the wolves from the orcs, and the horses from the humans. It would be something along those lines, is kind of my general gist and vibe I'm getting from this. But as an updated type of model for like better graphics wise and everything, this mount is definitely on my list for getting a hold of at this moment in time. So that being the case, let's just jump over to the next one. Now moving on to the Jailer Hound, I kind of like this Jailer mount because it just looks so badass. I like how it is presented. Basically, I love the armor pieces, and it's just like a shadowy figure inside the actual armor. And to be honest, I love the helmet. If they are able to do a armor set that can go along with this, this would be awesome. Due to the fact that I could actually have one of my characters transmog, aka my paladin, and actually have this mount and then be able to like just ride around. It looks so badass as hell. But overall, this mount just looks so awesome. It kind of is the same type of model as how the bear mounts are presented, in the way it's actually standing, and how the back end of the mount is actually raised slightly. The aesthetic appearance is absolutely incredible, and to be honest, this is another great one from Shadowlands. Coming on to not my most favourite ones, and that is the ARDENWEALD horse. Now this one is kind of alright, it's nothing really amazing, so to speak. It kind of reminds me of the ones that you get from like Legion. Well, the one that you got from Legion, I can't remember which one it's actually called, but at this moment in time, looking at this one, it doesn't spring awesomeness to me. But there is one thing of note that I would say is actually pretty cool on the mount, is how they've done an outline on the actual mount's horn and its hooves. So we've got the purple and then we've got a bit of blue. Obviously they come in different variations in colours, but overall with this outline, I kind of like this new feel when it comes to these different types of mounts. But due to the fact that it looks just like kind of like a reskin of the one from Legion, I'm not overly too impressed with this one. So that being the case, let's just move on to the next one. And the next one is not an illuminous one, but just a standard horse with a horn, so basically a unicorn, and that is the BASTION horse. Now this one is kind of alright. It actually kind of reminds me of the human versions, like if they were to update a human horse model and then just shove a horn on it basically. Once again, I'm not overly impressed with this one, besides how they could update the human model horses to be a bit more fleshed out with kind of like the extra textures added in. Now, aside from that, this one I think I will go for trying to get a hold of, but I think this one's more of an exalted rep one when it actually gets along with this, or something along the lines of exalted or revered. Now, aside from that, let's just move on to the following one. Now, this one is kind of the one that I like the most, and this one is the giant vampire bat. Now, this one is actually pretty damn cool. Flying around on a massive bat, no one's going to deny that. That is cool. It kind of reminds me of how you would get from like Brill to Undercity, or anywhere to Undercity. That was under the undead's control, so you'd be flying around on a bat, but this one you could actually fly, and to be honest, it's a nice little updated model of that. I kind of like the way the actual purple blends in with the darker brownish colour, and yeah, I would love to see a increased version, so like an actual proper character spotlight on this, so I can actually see the proper model in frame, like flying around, because this one doesn't really do it that much justice. I had to really look at this particular picture in order to see, but for obvious reasons we will have to wait and see what the character models look like going forward. So now looking at the MALDRAXXUS Chimera, which is our next one, this one actually reminds me of the Chimera that you actually get for getting the Pathfinder for Warlords of Draenor, and this is kind of like an undead version of that. This one is a hell of a lot cooler than the one that you got from the Pathfinder, mainly because it's undead and I love undead stuff, but I do generally like how it's totally rotted and everything. You can kind of make out that it's got like a bluish glow, kind of like how the undead are in like one of the cinematics back in the day. This kind of gives me like a scourgy vibe when you actually look at it, and to be honest, overall it's actually one of my favourite ones out of all of them moving forward. To be honest, most actual Shadowlands mounts that have been revealed so far are looking pretty damn awesome, and that being the case, let's move on to our next one. This one is my top one, and that is the ARDENWEALD MOTH. I am totally getting this. I was talking to the guys on Discord yesterday and I was like, this is the mount for me, mainly because it's a massive moth and it just is awesome as hell. Pretty much anyone who plays it like a druid, or anyone who is like a priest, or something along the lines of like a mage or something like that, it would go really well with their character. And to be honest, I really do generally like this one, mainly because the moth has some really nice features when it comes to being able to be shown. You can definitely see that they took a lot of time and effort into making this mount, and I really hope it is something like the Honeybee quest. So this is like the Shadowlands equivalent of the BFA Honeybee one, and this is something that we're going to have to work for really, really hard in order to get a hold of, because I would definitely give up like a few weeks of gold making just to get hold of this mount. This is definitely the one that I am in love with at this moment in time, and that is the ARDENWEALD MOTH. Now, coming along with this, we have the Death Rock in number 9, and the Death Rock is pretty damn awesome. Still gives you kind of a scourgy vibe, but like kind of like the one from like Western Plaguelands or the Eastern Plaguelands. It's kind of got that type of scourgy feel towards it. So even if it was like inside like the Western Plaguelands, you wouldn't think it would be out of place. And the undead features for this rock is pretty damn awesome. As we can tell, there is kind of a seat at the top, which I'm guessing we actually sit on and then fly the rock that way instead of like doing all of that. So a nice bone-esque throne up top your Death Rock. I yeah, this is pretty cool. Generally enjoy this mount, and I want to see how you actually get a hold of it moving forward. Well, to be honest, I would kind of like to see how we get all of the mounts, but I'm guessing only time will tell. Now, moving into our Vicious War mounts, and that is our Vicious Alliance War Spider. Now, the Vicious Alliance War Spider is pretty much a metalish, spiky spider mount, and I was wondering when they were going to bring in some spider mounts due to the fact of the 2 million gold one from the Mad Merchant. This one is probably, because it's a vicious mount, it's definitely going to be a PvP based one. And along with that, we can move on to number 10, which is the Horde's equivalent one, and that is the Vicious Horde War Spider. And that one is like kind of like a purple abdomen with like green-esqueness on it. And yeah, I generally like these mounts moving forward. Now, for number 11, we have the Devourer MITE, and this one's kind of like one of those little sporelings. Kind of reminds me of like a little sporling that kind of like attaches onto you, something from like Alien or something, like a face hugger. And to be honest, it's actually kind of nice to actually see a new style of mount moving forward. Obviously, we just saw the spider mounts, which the models have been in the game since Legion, and it's nice to see a different type of model moving forward to actually play with and be able to actually ride. I'm guessing this one will probably be like kind of like a drop or something, like maybe an open world drop, maybe in MALDRAXXUS or something. I don't know. But overall, I do like how they've actually gone with this mount, and to be honest, I would like to see how it actually rides. I'm guessing it's probably a flying mount as well, because most of the MITE models that we actually see within the game actually do have the ability to fly, so I'm guessing this is a flying mount as opposed to just a standard based ground mount. And which brings us on to our Winged Lion mount. Now this one kind of gives me the idea of kind of like ARDENWEALD-y, and yeah, it's pretty damn awesome. It's kind of like a variation of your standard guild mount, but with like wings and looking pretty damn dope. I must admit, this one definitely, I can tell they've spent a lot of time actually crafting this mount, like creating it in general, and to be honest, it's actually pretty damn awesome overall. At this moment in time, I do find this one to be one of my top ones, and I will probably go for this one if it is relatively easy enough to get a hold of straight off the bat. Aside from that, it will always be the MOTH mount for me moving forward. Brings us on to our number 13, which is the Automation Lion. The Automation Lion. And this one is kind of like a Titan-esque type feeling mount. And as we can tell that it's got like energy pulsing going through, connecting it all together. Kind of gives me an idea of like the Titans and all that stuff. And if you think about it, well, they're a part of the automations, and that would probably be pretty damn awesome looking forward on that one moving forward. And going along with this, with the automations, we have the Automation Lion mount number 2, and this is a different model of the last one, and this one is kind of okay. It's still the same type-esque feel, so just with a bit of different armor on top of it and all that jazz. And overall, I'm not overly that thrilled with these automation mounts so far. They kind of don't spring out to me, and like I don't really care for them. If I got a hold of them, I would be okay with it, but other than that, it's not really one of my top picks. On to number 15, which is the Giant Beast, and this one is definitely cool as hell. It's got bones and everything, and massive horns, and yeah, it's just basically got everything that you can want in an awesome badass mount when you're actually riding something in the game. I'm guessing this one is a ground mount, as I don't see any wings attached to this, but nonetheless, this does look pretty damn awesome moving forward. I do like how the horns are literally attached to the mount, so they've like fallen off over time, and all the different armor plating that goes along with this. I am definitely someone for spikes and armor on his mount. Moving along with this, we have the MALDRAXXUS boar. I'm guessing this is something like the ARDENWEALD horses, where there'll probably be a reputation thing, so you would have to get exalted with MALDRAXXUS or something and then be able to get a hold of this. This one gives me more of a Scourgy vibe due to the blue eyes, and moving forward along with the skull-esque, the skull literally protruding from the skin of this boar. It's definitely a rotted boar, but it looks damn awesome with like the horns coming out from underneath the chin and just protruding through the skull. It's yeah, it's definitely something I look forward to actually seeing how we're going to get a hold of this. Now moving on to number 17 is the Death Warg, and if you remember things like wargs in Lord of the Rings, this one kind of reminds me of that. Kind of like one of those mixed with a bear, so to speak. These are coming with like a gilded like leather seat that actually comes along with this, and looking at the model, it's pretty damn awesome, and looking at it, it's pretty damn awesome. I'm generally liking the aesthetic of like this massive demon-esque beast, and then it's like kind of like got a royal harness around it, so you're definitely like the King of Death or something along those lines. But judging by this is definitely something to look out for moving forward as well. Which brings us on to our next variation of the Death Warg, which is a armoured version of this with an actual throne attached to it. Now, I generally do like the added feature of the torches atop the throne and the box behind it. Along with this, the armor plating on top of it. Obviously, I just stated a little bit ago that I love armor plating on my mounts, and this one totally does it for me. This one is probably going to be one of the ones that I'm going to be going for out of all of them, besides the Moth, obviously. But yeah, this one's definitely pretty damn awesome. Which leads us on to our last mount to go over, and that is the Decomposer mount. Now this one kind of reminds me of something like that you would get from like Nate Pagle, like he was just fishing somewhere or something along those lines. And this one is, I don't know how to even describe this. This is, yeah, it's just like a massive bug. It's like a massive bug with massive pincers, and it kind of gives me a feel of very druidy, kind of like the idea of if you were to walk into Moonglade and you saw it, that would be something that would be living in Moonglade. Like, it's definitely, yeah, gives me a very good night elf feel when I look at this mount, and to be honest, and overall this is a very nice styled mount. And yeah, very unique, and overall this is definitely another awesome mount. So that being the case, what do you think on the new mounts coming into Shadowlands? I'm generally loving them. Obviously my heart is with the Moth mount. What is your one? Please put them in the comment section down below. And other than that, guys, have an awesome rest of the day, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.